that intro bit. Did we cook any ideas?
I mean, personally, I think you should just play the whole Reading Rainbow theme, but yeah, I don't know.
It's hard to like dig a thing out of that last hour of just of
I mean, there's not
dense talking
a
about
lot
it.
of funny to do. I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny, you know? Like, it's funny.
Hold on. I may have something. I don't know. I was trying to think of like, so a so-and-so da-da-da-da-da all walk into a bar, but be like, so 13 necromancers, 12 cavaliers, and all of them are gay walk into a bar. There's like something there, but I can't like find it. I can't figure it out. It's almost a joke.
I see what you're cooking, but I don't know enough to help you.
Hang on. I can help you. I can help you. God, I want you to just do like a Seinfeld bit like that, Jay. Like, so what's the deal with lictors? You know, but
Lichter, I hardly know.
Damn it, I was just about to say that.
Damn it.
That is so good.
All right. Can I just make a clean pass at that? All right. So what's the deal with Lictors? I mean, come on. Lichter? I hardly know her. Thank you, folks. I'll be here at Canaan House all week. They will not let me leave. I am soul bonded to the pavement.
Oh my god.
Is that something? Is that anything?
I love
Fucking
it.
incredible.
It was beautiful.
I don't know what pavement. I meant to say architecture, but said
No,
pavement.
pavement is fine.
The guy
Pavement is fine.
performing in the parking lot.
Yeah, the Canaan House parking lot.
God,
you know,
I don't remember if his name was actually Father now. Now I'm like, is it grandfather? It doesn't matter.
I think you were right.
He was like 100
souls
souls stuffed in one body also. It was very interesting,
Yeah.
so...
He's some sort of Oogie Boogie.
He's a weird
from
concept,
Nightmare Before
but-
Christmas.
Anyway, I gotta log off.
Hello, and welcome to the Hyperfixation, where my friends come onto our show and tell us about things that excite them for 30 to 45 minutes. Sometimes not, maybe more, who knows. My name is Roma Ostman. I use the they and them pronouns, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Jakey.
Hey, I'm Jake. I use the them and him pronouns.
Those are good pronouns, but we've got a special situation going on today,
We
Jakey.
do. Absolutely.
We don't just have one guest host today, do we, Jakey?
I'm counting the people in this call, and there's 4 of them.
We've got 2 guest hosts today, and the first one I'm going to introduce is Jay.
Hear that? We're a situation. Hi, I'm Jay.
Situation.
You may remember me from the season 1 episode about Pokemon. I am delighted to be back on Roma Osman's Wild Ride. Now
Woo!
Roma and Jakey's Wild Ride. They and them pronouns. If you're a Moonshot Podcast Network follower, you might know me as the creator of Additional Postage Required on the Moonshot Network, and I am delighted to be here again today.
I'm so hyped, and I've been nonstop talking about Additional Postage Required to everybody
Oh,
who'll
yeah.
give me a chance.
We should say, Roma, you're in it. You're in it as a queer sheriff.
I'm a sheriff.
Gil Hargrave is right here, right now with me, and I am happy to be talking to them. I'm sorry, this is not what this show's about. I just had to do it.
No, you're valid. I don't know if I told you, one of my clients at my Real Deal IRL job, I told her about the podcast, and she's listening to it right now. So I'm excited to hear her feedback when she returns from Colorado.
God. Let me tell you that Additional Postage Required. I have like cousins who listen to it who don't know anything about what I do in my spare time. It is the most accessible podcast of all time, other than this one and our other guest one. We all have the most accessible podcast of all time. I'm just saying, I am happy that mine gets to apparently be one of them.
I'm so excited. So yeah, I'll let you know when I hear back from her.
Okay.
It's gonna be so good.
She's gonna tell you she hates it.
No, she's a theater lady. She's gonna love it. But we have not just one guest today, we have two. And last but not least is our very own Audrey.
Hi, I'm Audrey. I use the she and they pronouns, and I host Alone at the Table for Moonshot Network, which is a solo RPG actual play podcast. I have been on this show, but not with Roma or Jakey or any of the other hosts. I hosted the show swap episode about Sonic with my partner, Aaron. So I am really excited to be here in a more official capacity. Also, I decided that I want to change the subject of today's show to be additional postage required.
Yeah.
I can't be here.
No
I'm too close to the source. I gotta
go, everybody. That's good. That's great. All of that was wonderful. What if we did a 2-for-1 deal where we spend a solid amount of time talking about additional postage required and somehow segue that into the topic of today?
I mean, Roma, no shit, I would come on this show just to talk about additional postage required.
You know what? Maybe we'll do that, but we won't tell Jay. We won't tell Jay.
No, we won't tell Jay.
No.
It'll be a secret.
Boy, it's a good thing I'm not on this call, so I won't know what's happening or anything.
You didn't hear any of that, Jay. Don't worry about it.
That would be really awkward and strange for me.
If you see a channel pop up that says, Jay, don't look in here, don't look in there.
So look
so I should, I'll do the Garfield, I wonder who this is for, or the Arthur, this won't stop me because I can't read.
Exactly. The dead dove do not eat. I don't know what I expected.
You know, for context of what I'm about to say, I don't know if y'all know, but Jay is one of our mod mommies here in the Discord. And so I just imagined it like a little like Five Nights at Freddy's security guard, like going down a dark hallway. And it's just like, oh, what's this room? And it's just like 3 of us, like animatronics, recording a podcast about our security guard.
It's amazing.
But you know what? Now that we're talking, this is, oh my god, what is this, a crossover episode? Shit, we've been on each other's podcasts, because Jakey and I were on Alone at the Table for the show swap too.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. This is,
the web,
it's crazy.
Connected. It's an intricate web.
They're in the walls. They're in the goddamn walls. Shit, dude, this is gonna be crazy. Did we even mention what we're talking about today?
No.
I don't think we did. I was going to segue from the intricate web, but, you know.
Been waiting for you to extract the bones of the conversation. That's a joke for me and Audrey, at least.
God damn.
You see, there's skeletons in this thing.
It's about necromancers, so naturally.
That's true. Oh, jeez. So I just kind of want to start, if I may, unless you guys are on a roll, and then I could shut up. But they're, from my perspective, because, you know, this is the beginning of season 4. This is the 3rd episode of the season.
Sounds right.
And that sounds about right. And we just, you know, we sent out the submission forms of like, hey, tell us what you want to talk about. What do you want to talk about? And it was just kind of nutty to see the same topic twice. So I was like, huh. And I dug a little deeper, and I'm like, those are my friends. And so, you know, we went to the other host. We're like, hey, like, should we do a double whammy? Do you think they'll want to talk about it together? And it's like, no, we could always ask it. And, you know, if they say no, whatever, that's fine. We'll figure it out. So I messaged y'all separately, and y'all were both like heckin' on board. And so, and Jay, you actually brought up this topic a while ago, back during season 3. I think you messaged me about it of like, next time. I want to do this one.
So can we say what it is, or are you leading up to saying what it is? Because I don't have to if you haven't.
I thought I was going to have a clever way to lead up into it, but I don't know what the hell the series is about other than lesbians in prison.
Okay. So some time ago, last November, I am at a Friendsgiving party where my good friend Liz tells me about a book she's been reading, and a book series she's been reading. The book is called Gideon the Ninth, and the series is called The Locked Tomb. The books being Gideon the Ninth, Harrow the Ninth, and Nona the Ninth, which with Electo the Ninth, the final one forthcoming. Yeah. So at the start of this year, this is like right when we started releasing episodes of Additional Postage Required. I think I just needed like a thing to be getting really into while working on that, kind of to cope with the stress of working on a big thing like that. So I start reading Gideon the Ninth, and it is not long until, Roma, I message you being like, hi, I just read this whole book in a week. I haven't done that since I was in college, and then I was at GPA-related gunpoint. I'm gonna need to talk to you about this series at some point. There's 2 more books. Let me read those, but just FYI, I'm gonna have to talk to you about these books about necromancers at some point.
And then some point after that, you and I were actually on a call. I think it might have been after we recorded Once Missed Wonders. You were telling me about it, and so like I went and immediately bought the first one. I haven't started it yet, but I do own it because you made it sound fucking awesome.
I remember that conversation, actually. That's right. I love that you've been saving it for this. I hope we pitch you further in its favor and not away from it.
Oh man, Jake, I am so sorry because I'm going to spoil it so hard for you.
I am the kind of person who does not get bothered by spoilers. I kind of like, for some reason, it just does not bother me. So
that's good. Just because this series is like very hard to talk about without being spoilery, just because of the form of it. Like you could probably talk about Gideon by itself without being super spoilery, but then to talk about it in the larger context of the series is really hard.
Right.
Once you're at like the last chunk of the first book, it's pretty all bets are off from that on.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Wait, I'm pretty sure. Let me check something real quick. I guess in the same vein, on both sides as Jakey, like after Jay told me that they wanted to do this book for an episode, I'm pretty sure the audiobook showed up on Spotify.
Whoa.
And it's been teasing me this entire time. Like, it's literally been like, hey, you know that book? And I'm like, no, it's going to be an episode. I can't do that right now. And it's like, hey,
the audiobooks
right here, like on my front page.
So good, though. So you definitely would have a good time with them.
Yeah. So it's funny enough, not appearing on my homepage right now, but it was like ever since then, just staring at me. And then also before this call started, you were telling me, Audrey, that's like, this is going to be heckin' spoilery.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, this saves me. Well, it doesn't save me because I'm probably going to do it anyway, but I like to listen and watch everything twice so I can see what happened. But if I can get spoiled and find it first, that's why I spoil myself on One Piece, actually, so I can see all the little Easter eggs Oda leaves behind. But I'm so hyped.
It's also like the same thing as like reading the manga while it's ahead of the anime, right? Like, Roma, I think you and I assume, are both current on Chainsaw Man, the manga, and so we both get to just bounce in our chairs and giggle for the next like 5 years as things gradually roll out.
Actually, I've been the One Piece live action in the same vein. It's just like, I'm so excited to see how they're gonna do this in the live action. Or with Chainsaw Man, or I'm like looking at it and I'm like, oh, this scene's gonna be so good when it's animated. But I'm getting off topic. We're talking about prison necromancy lesbians.
See, you keep saying prison, but the thing is, it's not really prison.
No?
No. So the thing, okay, wait, should I start getting into it? Do I need to talk about getting familiar with it? Do we care? I'm like chomping at the bit and I'm aware of it. I have too many things to say about this.
Well, Jay mentioned how they picked it up from a Friendsgiving party. How did you get into this series?
I'm gonna be real with you. I don't remember. I feel like I osmosed it. Like it's just you know how sometimes you know a person and you've known them for so long, or it feels like you've known them for so long that you don't remember how you met? That is what it feels like with this book for me. I know that I picked it up very shortly after it came out. I had seen the like rote pitch that goes around, which is space lesbian necromancers, right? And knew nothing about it other than that one line. And it was like pandemic time, and I was reading so many books because like I read a lot anyway, but during pandemic I was especially reading a ton. And I picked up the first one when it came out, and I never do that because I hate having to wait for sequels. But I did it, and I read it like 3 times before the sequel came out. And had pre-ordered Harrow and then pre-ordered Nona, and was super pissed off when I found out Electa was getting delayed and won't be published this year. But
no, wait, what? I didn't know that. Son of a bitch! Really?
Yes, I'm serious.
It
was supposed to be coming out like towards the end of the year, and I went to my local bookshop like a month ago to place the pre-order because I usually do that a few months in advance. And they were like, it's not coming up. Like, I can't find it in our system. Let me check Amazon. And there was no Amazon listing. And so then we like Googled, I'm like behind the counter at the store at this point, and we're like Googling Tamsyn Muir's website, the author's website. And it's like, oh yeah, it's been delayed. It'll probably be 2024. And I was just like, what?
Tamsyn!
You are killing me. You're killing me. Jay, in the meantime, though, if you need something to get into before that book comes out, you should read the Iron Widow series, which is something else entirely.
Okay, noted. We'll talk off mic.
Yes.
I second Iron Widow.
It's so good. That one, the sequel got delayed too, but it's fine. I'll talk more about that later. But yeah, I really couldn't tell you. Like, I don't know where I saw the pitch for it. I don't know, like, where I bought the book. I just picked it up and read it. And yeah, and here we are. And now I have a folder on my phone called Gideon Blogging that's like 150 shots of pages from the 3 books. So yeah, I'm normal.
Hell yeah.
I'm normal about this series.
You know what? It'd be funny if I made it a Patreon goal, and then you have to like put that in a Google Doc and share the link of all your thoughts. You don't have to. It's just a bit in my head. No,
I totally would do it. I will save like the screenshot I have of the album and just like the pages and pages of stuff that I have highlighted.
Goodness, so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Should we get into it? Should we talk about what I feel like we've been saying the same 3 words and not really talking about what the books are. I mean, we should
it's
probably
like
get to that.
lesbian space necromancers, right? And everybody says that, and there's so much more. Let's break it down. Lesbians, no one kisses.
Go for
Space,
it.
It does take place
timer.
in space. Necromancers, they are necromancers.
Also, I hate to throw this in now. Homestuck. It is based on a fan fiction of it. Anyway,
no, here's the thing. It is extremely like, you can tell that Tamsyn Muir is an author who was a millennial who grew up on the internet and read Homestuck, and the influencers are pretty clear. But okay, Gideon.
I mean, Bluey's the same way.
You look. I have heard your theory about this, Roma. I've watched so much.
Wait, sorry, what?
I watched so much Bluey right now.
What the fuck are you talking about right now? The dog show?
Yeah.
They have Prospect and Dirt. Whatever the other one is. It's not Dirt. I know it's not Dirt, but you know what I mean.
Durst. It's Durst. I hate that I remember all the Homestuck words, but it is Durst. Yep.
They have that in the background. Also, Sam's Undertale is there, but it's fine. It's a children's show.
What the fuck is Bluey about? We can't get into this.
I will gladly tell you about Bluey on another episode or off call, Jay, because I know so much about it now.
No, you better include my ass in that shit. I want to know.
I love that show
it's so much. But yeah, so this book series takes place in space. That is what you need to know first and foremost. It does take place in our solar system. There are 9 houses of the Empire, and their leader is called God, as in capitalized like the Christian God. But hey, spoiler alert, he's just some fucking dude. And actually not a great one.
He's just a guy.
Yeah, he sucks. But he invented necromancy.
His name's John.
Yeah, he sucks so bad. He invented necromancy, and there's the 9 houses, and there's necromancers making up the population of each 9 houses, and you learn basically that they're 9 planets of the solar system. And then it's
they're basically like the civilizations on these planets are sort of organized around these like 9 houses of nobility.
Yes, yeah, basically. It's like a very like I mean, it feels very medieval, like hierarchy wise, the way that it's set up, and then the necromancy is like very much formalized. Like there are necromancers and there are cavaliers, and but anyway, we start out on the 9th house with Gideon Nav, who is I mean, this is the part where it's kind of a prison. Basically, she's on the 9th house against her will and wants to join the Empire's military to get out there. The military is called the Cohort. And she's beefy?
She's beefy. She's kind of in like in adopted indentured servitude. Like what you kind of learn is that she's like, 18-year-old beefcake, great with a broadsword. She showed up as a baby on the steps of the 9th house, effectively, was taken in by the, at the time, I forget the names of the effectively king and queen of the 9th house.
So they have some truly bonkers ass titles in the 9th house, because it's all...
Are we gonna get into the way people are named in this shit? Because it's insane.
Oh God, yes, we are. Oh my God, so they have bonkers ass titles, but they take Gideon in basically, and then all of the children her age and younger die. And we later find out that they were killed on purpose, but Gideon doesn't die. And so now she and the Reverend daughter, who is the ruler of the house, because her parents are dead and she's puppeting around their corpses. Don't worry about it. Don't ask about it. The Reverend daughter, Harrowhark Nonageesimus, is the only other person her age on this planet with like a dying population and just like decrepit ancient people, nuns, and like what? Ordis, I guess, is like the next youngest person, and his ship blows up when he tries to escape duty.
Ordis is so the like Harrowhark who
There's so much to say, and I'm explaining this bad.
No, yeah, you're good. You're good. Can I like tap in a little and like get us a little more linearly into it just to like help out? So
please.
Gideon basically has grown up in this place knowing 2 other kids her age, because all the other children who lived in this entire effectively kingdom on not Pluto. I forget what planet.
It is Pluto.
Audrey, hold your fucking horses. We'll talk about the alignment of the planets.
It's Pluto.
Okay, it is Pluto. Okay. So, the only other 2 people her age growing up are Harrowhark Nonageesimus Harrow, which is who the second book's named after, who is effectively like the princess, so to speak. Reverend daughter is her title. And then Ordis, who is her cavalier, which is basically the like swordsman apparent to the person in that position. And Ordis loves poetry, doesn't like fighting.
He's
His
a
mom
mama's
is worried he's
boy,
gonna get killed.
very romantic poet, Lord Byron.
He is such a mama's boy. He loves his little poets and their pretty words, and he doesn't like fighting very much. And then he gets blown up and killed in a helicopter accident.
Yeah, because his mom... So because the reason that he gets blown up is because him and his mom are trying to escape the 9th house, because there has been a summons from the Emperor for the scions of all of the houses and their cavaliers to report to the 1st house, which is the dead remains of Earth, to basically see if they can ascend to lictorhood. And lictors are like the right hand, the fingers, I think is what they call them, of the Emperor of God.
The feeders of God.
Yeah, is it Lictor and not Lictor? I have been reading it as Lictor for 8 months.
I am going to be real with you, Jay. I don't know how any of this shit is pronounced. I am just pronouncing it how I feel in my heart. Lictor is honestly...
Fine. You keep saying Lictor, I'll keep saying Lictor.
I think it's totally fine.
Tomato.
It's like, I don't know, it's like the stuff in these books is like so steeped in the way that Catholicism adorns everything that I have like in my head the Roman Catholic pronunciations for adjacent words. But so the point is, they're summoned to the 1st house, and surprise, you thought that this book was going to be some like big epic space fantasy, and maybe it is, but it's actually just an Agatha Christie novel set on the dead Earth.
I love Agatha Christie.
Oh, shit.
It is a locked room mystery where someone is murdered, and then they try to figure out who murdered him.
Murder.
And the dead remains of Earth are amazing.
I realized that my brain might have done, you know how you like are typing and you accidentally maybe like select a chunk of text and delete it, but you did it so fast and you're not sure like how that happened. That happened in my brain just now, but you said it's a murder mystery, but you said there are a lot of necromancers.
Yes.
So all of these people are necromancers, or half of these people are necromancers. Right. Basically, all of the like nobility of these houses are necromancers. That is like part of what it means, kind of to be part of that nobility a bit, and what exactly that means changes based on what house you're from. So Harrow Hark, who is the necromancer princess of the 9th house, basically. Her shit is bones. Later on in the book, there's a really good line. Yeah. Show them what the 9th does, Nav. We do bones, motherfucker. Right before Gideon and Harrow charge into a battle together. So she's a bone witch. Someone else kind of just like manipulates fat and sinewy tissue to do stuff. Like,
it's gross. There's the soul. There's the creepy 8th house soul stuff. Like.
Yeah, There's a lot of different interpretations of necromancy, but really think about it, as if it's like an entire, broad magic system like you'd have in any fantasy novel series or like tabletop series or RPG, whatever, that is entirely based around like different variations and interpretations of necromancy as a concept. Yes. So from each one of these houses, one, or in one case two, necromancers from like the high house come along with their cavalier, their like right-hand swordsman, swordswoman, swordsperson. And like Audrey said, they all end up in Canaan House, which is this large mansion where they are basically prompted to what was it?
So it's like a palace, kind of. Okay, I said that, and then I immediately had an epiphany. Jay, it's the laboratory that John was working in.
Right. Yeah.
That's what Canaan House is.
I feel like it's a palace, and the laboratory's under it, is the whole idea, isn't it? Because they sort of go down into the depths and find the facilities.
Yeah, they built a palace on top of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, what happens is they are told in this place, in Canaan House, there are tests that you have to pass to potentially become one of God's next lictors. It's up to you to figure it out. Here's a key I'm gonna give to each of you. Fuck off, and the rest is your puzzle to figure out. And
the only person at Canaan House is a little old man named what they call him, Father. I think
I forget what they call him.
I think it's Father. It was something creepy.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it's him, and like later they discover that there's like revenants, basically, like revenant spirits attached to like skeletons that do some stuff, and they're like servants and blah 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 and all this stuff. But man,
there's skeletons walking around all over this house doing kind of the beck and call. There's a lot of skeletons in these books. There's just skeletons walking around doing stuff for people. Autonomized skeletons is just a normal thing you have if you live in this universe.
I love it.
Yeah, they do so much cool stuff. And like, so there's a huge cast of characters, and I could name them all, but I'm not going to. The only one you need to know is Sex Pal. And
I'm sorry.
So his name is Sextus Palamedes, and he is the necromancer of the 6th house, and his cavalier is named Camilla. And there's a point in the book where basically, you meet all these other necromancers and stuff, and you realize that all necromancy isn't like the 9th house's necromancy. It's not all decrepit and dusty and gross and like dying populations. Like, there are just kind of more relatively normal ass people here. And but some of those people are, like I said, Sextus and Camilla, and Harrow has ordered Gideon to like not talk and to basically be in the like 9th house skull face paint and her big imposing robes and to not talk. And so when she finally talks to Sextus and Camilla, because she can't find Harrow and she needs to ask them for help, she says, "Did you know that if you shorten your name, it is Sex Pal?" And that's what she says to him. That's like the first thing.
Oh,
that
my
is fucking
God.
incredible.
This is after Gideon has just been a completely silent figure stalking around this mansion for like days.
And
all these other
everybody,
necromancers are like, what the fuck is her problem?
They're like, wow, the 9th house nuns are so weird. The 9th house cultists are so weird.
That's incredible.
The thing about it ultimately is like, yeah, so this first book is like them solving these mysteries in this house, right? So it's Gideon specifically. Gideon is not Harrow's cavalier, like swords person. Ortis, who we talked about, disappears and then dies, and so Gideon basically has to last minute step in as the stand-in. And as they kind of go into Canaan House, you start to learn that these two have like a really complicated history, because that they are two of three kids who grew up together in very different circumstances, but in the same place in the House of the Ninth.
And they ostensibly hate each other.
Yeah. But in a it's complicated kind of way.
In a we have so much shared history that it feels like the only choice we have is to hate each other kind of thing, until the swimming pool scene in the book, which is great, but until the scene that made my fucking heart flutter and made me the saddest I've ever been in my life. Oh God. So basically, okay, I'm gonna skip ahead. I'm gonna skip ahead, or we'll never talk about the other two books too, Jay. It doesn't really matter a whole lot who dies. But know that more than one person eventually dies, and they're all still searching for the way to become a lictor and like testing these various theorems. Like one of them's really gnarly. It's like an energy field that like peels off your skin and stuff, and you have to regenerate it while you walk through it to get the answer and stuff. So like it's stuff like that. But essentially we find out from Harrow that the reason all those kids on the Ninth House died is that her parents were trying to give her the most and best possible necromancy in the hopes of rejuvenating their house. So she is like
just supercharged like a battery.
She is like a generation of children, like necromantically all stuffed into one body. But she's just one person, but it's like they all died and all of their necromancy and all that they were is in her. And Gideon is the only one that wasn't killed in that experiment. And basically her parents couldn't stand what they had done and killed themselves. And so she's been parading their corpses around.
Oh, and
yeah.
and meanwhile Gideon blames herself for Harrow's parents killing themselves, because she's like, if I had just died, then they wouldn't have felt like it failed. And Harrow's like, we made your life a nightmare for your entire life, and also I'm a war crime. There's a great line where Harrow calls herself a war crime, and the narrator's just like, Gideon looked at the war crime.
Yeah.
It's just very
funny little completely
moment
full of shit. They didn't feel bad about what they did, and that's not why they killed themselves. They killed themselves because the Ninth House has one thing that is very particular about it. There is a tomb that was locked by God that no one is supposed to enter, and you can't let whatever is in the tomb out because it will be his undoing. And Harrow opens it.
The Ninth House is the keepers of. Yeah.
Yes. And Harrow opened it as a child, like as a 11-year-old, 12-year-old child after fighting with Gideon. And so that's why Gideon blames herself, because she's like, if this hadn't happened, you wouldn't have opened it and they wouldn't have killed themselves. Because they basically saw it as such a disgrace to their house and like a failure on their part that they decided they would rather die. And Ortis's dad, the actual Cavalier, died, like killed himself also. So it's pretty dark. It's pretty grimdark. Saying it all out loud like that, I'm like, wow, it's hard to explain to people why I find so much joy in this series. But it's because the thesis of the series is that like love is everything. Like that's all we have, you know?
This feels like the same reason I love Chainsaw Man a little bit. I completely understand.
Honestly, you could draw a line. I could. One can draw a line between any two things. No, I can kind of see it.
I'm in full immersion mode. Like I catch myself and I apologize if I find myself. You know how you have like an 8-hour YouTube essay about Victorious playing in the background, and you're really into it, but you just it's just where your mind's at, but you're not like talking. You know, you're just absorbing. I keep finding myself doing that. I'm like, wait, no. Fuck, this is a podcast. This is it. I can interact. They'll hear me.
Wow, we are Quentin reviews in this moment.
And so, instead of it being Garfield's, I have Heathcliff's all over the room. In like the imaginary podcast minivan space we're in, the whole inside's full of Heathcliff. And we're talking about lesbian space necromancers in a locked tomb sealed by God. I'm really blown away right now, and we're only
one book
my
in?
timer's been going. We're 17 and a half minutes and one book in, and I'm sold, and I found out it's $26 for each book on Spotify, but I could get really pretty hardcovers on Amazon.
The hardcovers are so pretty. Also, if you pre-order, you get the special edition that has the black edge pages, which is like,
oh my god, yes,
my kryptonite.
Yeah, I have that of the third one. It's beautiful.
Give me a link. Where is it?
It did get black edges on, or it did get like whatever that black ink is on pages of another book I had in a bag,
which feels
with it,
fitting.
But it was kind of hardcore that happened. Yeah. Nona the Ninth. Nona loves so greatly that her love spreads to other books that have nothing to do with it.
Exactly. It's perfect. Jay, I think that I need to toss it to you to cap the end of this book, which is like the biggest spoiler for Gideon, but is crucial to understanding the next two.
Okay, yeah, so I had a thing I kind of wanted to say about the first book before getting to that, if I can, which is, so the reason I got really hooked by the first one of these is that, like we've said, you get pitched, okay, there are these 9 houses, it's this enormous kind of sweeping multi-planetary space kingdom. Before, if you're like me, it takes you 2 books to even realize, oh, there's 9 planets just like in our solar system. This is obviously our solar system. I'm real stupid. So I didn't realize that for a while, but regardless of that,
I don't think that that's true. It's not obvious in the first one.
What got me though was that, you have that setting, but then like Audrey said, you are just in this one location. You are in Canaan House for pretty much the entirety of this first book with people from all over this grander setting here, right? You have kind of like distillations of the houses of the stars all in this fucking literal house together, all dealing with each other. The third house has 2 different necromancers they sent, Coronabeth and Ianth Tridentarius, which are another pair of great names. I was naming people crazy names in APR long before reading these, but boy, is it stoking the flames. You have all these people together, like, forming relationships, forming alliances, breaking alliances. Gideon and Harrow build a big alliance with the House of the Six, Sex Pal and Camilla. Gideon gets...
God, we haven't even talked about Dulcinea.
I was going to say, Gideon gets flirted with by Dulcinea Septimus, a beautiful, extremely sickly, dying woman from the 7th house, who turns out to be something else. But what I really like about it is that I think it's... I would so much rather gain secondhand knowledge and infer things about a grander sci-fi fantasy setting through a more limited lens like this, through just having... Here's these people with their own limited experiences all in a place together, bouncing off each other, dueling each other, working together, betraying eeach other. I felt like I got so much out of a grander setting that I wasn't even seeing 99.9999999% of just by having these people in this space together. And that is... all 3 of these books have magic to them. That is the magic of the first one that is not in either of the other ones that I think is really special about it. I just had to get that out there.
I think it's rare to find, especially in fantasy, it's rare to find a book series with a younger protagonist that isn't going to hand you the world building on a platter.
Yes.
And that's something that I really enjoyed about this series, because like you're saying, Jay, it's not illuminated to you in its entirety. And even for everything you think that you are learning and that you know about, like while you're reading, you get to the end of it and you're like, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And that makes it really fresh going into Harrow. And then she somehow did it again, where you start off on Nona and you're like, first of all, okay, I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but you start off on Nona and you're like, okay, so there are just normal ass people in this universe, like living normal ass lives, relatively speaking. Like the Empire and the houses and stuff is not even the sum of the universe. But it's like she's done that 3 times now.
It takes 3 books before you see what normal people's lives are like in this setting. And when you do, it's mind-blowing because it's so outside the realm of what you've seen up to that point.
Yeah.
Talking about the end of Gideon, though, yeah. So it's, some deaths happen. Some revelations get made bit by bit. We see Gideon and Harrow. Harrow initially, when the two of them get to this house, is like, Gideon, stick around, shut up. I am gonna figure out all this Lictor stuff myself. I do not need or want your fucking help. And over the course of the book, they kind of realize, well, we have to help each other. And that's how you get, like, them opening up to each other and having the whole conversation about Harrow being 200 souls in one body and all that. Eventually, they start working together, and it is sort of revealed at the end that the Dulcinea, who we mentioned from the House of the Seventh, who has been, like, flirting with Gideon, has been, like, making friends with her gradually over time. She is not actually Dulcinea Septimus. She is one of the existing Lictors, which the Lictors, they are the hands of the Emperor. They are also functionally immortal. It is revealed that she is one of them. This happens shortly after you learn that at least one killing, and Audrey, if you want to help me out here, but so Ianth, one of the other people from the other houses, ascends to Lictorhood and figures out what you have to do it, by killing their cavalier and effectively taking in his soul into hers. That is what they sort of learn, is that effectively if you take someone else's soul into your body as a necromancer and you're able to hold them both there, you basically have, like, a positive and a negative charge that are, like, keeping each other continuously charged forever, and you just become an immortal super being.
Yes. Yeah, so the idea is that you have to, like, eat them, and the thing that kills me about that is that, okay, go on, Jay. I don't want to cut you off, but I'm in my feelings about this right now.
Sure. Yeah. So the brief version is we learn that this one person is one of the old Lictors who has come to kill all of them. And Audrey, stop me if I'm wrong, but from what I remember, she basically is like, hey, Lictorhood fucking sucks. I've been doing this for 10,000 years. I don't want to see more kids conscripted to this. We also learn, I think at this point, we learn that she is part of a group called Blood of Eden, which we learn what that is way later.
Yes.
And that she is sort of there as an emissary of Blood of Eden, which is a resistance group against the Emperor and against the state of the Nine Houses.
And they have Puritan-style names, and it's amazing.
Yeah. She's left the Nine Houses in order to ally with this group that's trying to, like, halt this system. It's trying to put an end to this insane societal system. Most of the people there die. What ends up ultimately happening is Gideon kind of looks at Harrow. There's an incredible long battle with a huge bone beast. Gideon looks at Harrow and says, all right, we've got this, we've got a Lictor here. Effectively, what she says is, and I know what you have to do to become like her, and you need to become like her in order to kill her and stop her from doing anything else. And Gideon, says, I have to die for you to do this. Harrow is refusing. Because at this point, it is basically Harrow and Gideon have just turned to this point where they are, like, understanding each other as people, and they are like, these two these bitches love each other. Them's bitches is gay. Like, these two people love each other as much as any two people have ever loved each other. And they have finally realized it. And now they are both realizing, or at least Gideon's realizing, hey, I need to die so that you can live. And Gideon throws herself down on a like spiked fence, basically, and says, all right, I'm dying, Harrow, you better do it fast. And kind of like halfway forces Harrow into doing the process. And so the last part of the book is this incredible kind of perspective merging between Harrow and Gideon that then result, like the process happens in a blur that the way it's described reminds me of like being under anesthesia. It reminds me of when I got my wisdom teeth taken out, and my experience from the anesthesia was like as if I was revolving around in a big circle, like, and just like, like with a blur in front of me, unable to register what's going on. She comes out of that. You're still reading kind of from Gideon's perspective, I think. No, it is from Harrow's perspective at this point. but it's her still being able to kind of like feel Gideon in her and as part of her all of a sudden. And Harrow, takes up the sword that she's never held before, but Gideon has, and Gideon's reflexes mixed with Harrow's magic basically turn them into one person. And she duels. Shoot, Audrey, what is Dulcinia's actual name? Who actually is it? Do you remember?
Cytherea.
Cytherea. She is Cytherea the First is her actual name. All of the Lictors have the first as the antonym of their name.
Because the first house doesn't exist anymore. It's just John and his Lictors.
It's just John and his freaks. But
yeah, John's freak circus.
But so the duel happens, and the book kind of ends with Harrow like feels Gideon kind of fading from her, and then you cut to this end chapter where she wakes up in like what I imagined as like where Luke Skywalker gets kept in a Bacta tank, just a very like sci-fi spaceship hospital bed. And God is there with her, saying hello. It seems you've passed, you and one other, which is Ianth Tridentarius, this other one we've mentioned.
Yeah.
And Harrow is kind of hit with the knowledge of like, okay, you've done it. You're a Lictor. Gideon's gone. You're a Lictor, and that's just like the God telling her, "Rise, Harrowhark the First." Giving her the first name is where that first book ends.
Holy shit!
Mm-hmm.
That whole last chunk of Gideon is so intense.
It's so hard, and there's a part where she says, "You're already 200 souls of the ninth. What's one more?"
Oh God!
And it killed me. Like that, it physically hurt me. Oh, hey, I found my book stack where I rented this from the library. Actually, in January 2020. So I'm gonna put that in the chat. But
can I hold on a minute if I can find it? Can I read the thing that Harrow says to Gideon as she's dying before they like do the procedure? You know the quote. She just kind of holds her and says, Gideon, this is coming from someone who has bullied Gideon all her life, been nothing but fighting with her constantly. They have been tooth and nail at each other for 19 years. Harrow, as Gideon is basically bleeding on the fence before they merge souls and start doing all this. Gideon the Ninth, first flower of my house, she said hoarsely, you are the greatest cavalier we have ever produced. You are our triumph, the best of all of us, and it has been my privilege to be your necromancer. And she just says that to this bitch as she's fucking dying. And like, it is just so much. There is so much in this first book, especially, I feel like, but across the whole series of people just expressing the truest love for each other a little bit too late and gradually learning how to do it right on time instead of a little bit too late. That is a thing that I
just
feel
a little
like,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit before that, she says, "I can't fathom a world without you in it."
Oh fuck! It's so much.
I'm just like, it is so heartbreaking. And the other thing, okay, so Jay, this is something that I realized on reread, which sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But these books have so much for you to find as you go back through. So there is a point earlier in the book where they talk about how Harrow's precision is so good that she could. I actually think they talk about this in Harrow, but they talk about her precision being so good that she could like pinch off a single artery if someone was bleeding out. But she can't do it for Gideon in this moment because she's spent.
Oh no!
And it sucks to know that.
Yeah. It's the idea that like Harrow is like the most like an incredibly accomplished necromancer. She has like some of the most adept abilities, like you're saying, of like anyone in this place. And yeah, she can't, like the one person she has actually cared about saving the entire book while like a murder plot's going on, she can't save, and it's incredibly tragic. And then we get a whole book from her perspective. Hey Audrey, how fine is she doing in Harrow the Ninth?
So in Harrow the Ninth, she has literally done psychic surgery on herself so that she can't remember Gideon. To the point that there is a lictor named Gideon the First, and she has replaced his name, in addition to Gideon in all of her memories, with Ortis.
Well, Ordis,
as though Gideon was never her cavalier.
Ordis
and
being
that
the person who
Ordis
was her cavalier.
always-
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No. We get these like weird juxtaposed like memories of Canaan House, but with Ordis there instead of Gideon. And then the other part is Harrow being among the lictors, and it becomes very apparent that Harrow is not truly a lictor, like that she is not as powerful as everyone else, that something went wrong, that she's only a half lictor.
She doesn't have the like. There is power from the other soul that should be in her that she is unable to take from, basically.
And it's because she has locked Gideon away in a part of her brain that she can't access, so she can't have the lictor power. And she, in her mind, did it because she was trying to save Gideon. And there's a part of the book, because the second book, Harrow, is written in second person. Like, it's, you did this, you did that. That's the way it's written. And you realize later in the book that it's Gideon saying that. And there's a part where she says, I gave you everything and you didn't even want it. And it's just like, these two are miscommunicating so hard.
Oh my god.
I need to find another quote if I can. Give me 1 minute.
Yeah, while you're looking for the quote, I am like blown away right now. Especially, I don't know if y'all have been looking in the Locked Tomb thread, but I've been looking up art of these characters because I do better if I have like a visual reference to like put names to, because otherwise it'll just kind of get lost in the doom box of my noggin. And I am fucking simping right now. I know it's probably not the best time to go from really like a stressful, like dedicated love, but also like trauma with love, and then I'm like over here like muscle ladies.
No, listen, the simping is actually fundamentally very important. It's actually really important that you simp. It's important that you find your people to simp to the hardest and simp at them with all the power within you.
Thank you.
I can't find the quote, but the like needle drop, because yeah, it's second person. The needle drop for like the moment that, if you haven't picked up that maybe there's a reason it's in second person by this point, that Tamsyn Weir is just telling you this is why. There's a point later on in the book where, the people from the sixth house who Audrey mentioned, Sex Pal, that guy, he dies in the first book. His soul is in a little pocket dimension somewhere in the afterlife, in the river, which is the afterlife that you learn about in the second book. Harrow goes there and meets him, not remembering who he is. She's kind of locked that away too. And at the end of this whole conversation they have, as she's leaving, the narration still in the second person, it is something to the effect, I am not looking at the quote because I couldn't find it. It is something to the effect of, and as you were leaving, there was never even a hint that he may have noticed me. And that is the second person narrator referring to themselves as a person all of a sudden.
Well, and here's the problem.
300 pages into a book.
Here's the problem. Because
it's a fucking jump scare.
Harrow is being, we aren't sure if she's hallucinating or if she's being haunted, but she refers to the body, which is the body of the woman who was in the tomb that she saw when she opened the locked tomb as a child, who she has apparently been in love with forever. And she doesn't know who this person is, but she is seeing the body. Now, Jay, when I read Harrow, I had a lot of lively debate with people about whether or not the body was there. And the answer is she's fucking there, because they go through the river. And that is like the catalyst for the spirit. And so whether or not she's hallucinating or being haunted, the point is you think for a really long time that the narrator might be the body.
That never occurred to me. I got to be honest. Some of us
totally
think that for a really long time. That's really interesting, actually.
That's a really long time.
No, that's a great way to read it, though. That's a really fascinating read. Because I always something interesting about the body to me is that because once you do learn that the second book is being from Gideon's perspective, Gideon doesn't give a shit about the body, which we later learn that's Alecto, which is the goes by many names. Alecto the First, which is good. Alecto the Ninth will be the title of the final book when that comes out.
I just don't. I'm like I haven't even gotten into half of it.
The thing that's interesting is like Gideon doesn't give a shit about that. Like to Gideon, it doesn't matter. That's just a thing Harrow's in love with. That's just a thing Harrow is seeing and Harrow cares about. And so I feel like whether the body is something that Harrow is hallucinating or, like you said, being haunted by like, as like a malevolent spirit, the ambiguity of that, I feel like, is Gideon as a narrator kind of controlling the way we look at it, which I think is really cool and interesting.
It's true. And also the thing about the body is that it's not malevolent, because there are definitely parts where it, like, Harrow describes deriving comfort. Yeah. And saves her ass because Gideon the First, who is known as Ortis the First for most of the book because of Harrow's messed up memory, is trying to kill Harrow, like, a lot. Like, for most of the book. And there's some, like, oh, is Cytherea not dead? I saw Cytherea's body, which they also have here because they're all mourning Cytherea. You know, they're like, is she dead? Is she not dead? Is Gideon the First into Cytherea's weird body? Also, the thing about lictors, the thing you need to know is that they've all been alive for thousands, like 10,000 years, and they've all fucked each other and God. That is canon. There is a part where Ianthe and Harrow are trying to, like, look into something that they know they're not supposed to be looking into, and they do so by getting God and Mercy Morn and Augustine to hook up.
Mercy Morn and Augustine being the other two lictors who are alive and in this location where most of the second book kind of takes place. They just get them all drunk and get them all to fuck so that Harrow and Ianthe can. I don't even remember what they're specifically looking for. They're looking. That point,
it's something to do with Cytherea's body, because that's like the central mystery of this one. Is like, they're doing lictor training, and they're doing lictor training, which means we find out that what they're doing is they're converting planets that are living to basically, they're killing planets to mine the energy from the planets so that they function necromantically and can be planets for the Empire. However, those create these ginormous beast things that then want to consume the lictors because it's the spirit of the dead planet. And there's a whole thing with, like, them being in the river and being pursued by these resurrection beasts is what they're called. And because they're on a spaceship, they're on God's spaceship, John's spaceship, whatever. And so the big crux of the second book is, like, the reveal that Harrow has done this to herself, you know?
Isn't that usually how it comes up, though? For, like, in, like, IRL, it's just like, this is the consequences of my actions that have come back for me.
Well, she has all these, like, secret notes she wrote and entrusted to Ianthe to give to people, and they're all like, hand me this note if this thing happens. Like, the amount of detail that she has put and thought into this plan is, like, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, like picture that duel at the end of the first book is, like, on the courtyard steps of that big mansion we were talking about. Picture blood everywhere, 10,000-year-old woman's corpse lying over there, and then this 19-year-old woman with skull face paint frantically writing as many little notes to herself as she can, while another lady who also just ascended to godhood watches her like, what are you doing, fuck ass? What are you doing? What is this?
Ianthe is a huge flirt. So annoying. Such a, like, Tumblr disaster girly. Like, horrible. Hate her.
What?
Hate her.
Hold on. Explain more. I need to know this person. Well, I'm infatuated with shitty little people.
So first of all, she's one of the twins, supposedly twin necromancers from the third house, except for that it turns out that her sister never had any necromancy, and Ianthe has been pretending for both of them their whole lives. So her sister, Coronabeth, also, their names were originally Canabeth and Abeli, which Cain and Abel, you can't fricking get more than that.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a little on the nose.
Catholicism. But so she basically has absolutely no remorse or empathy in the end of the first book when she's ascended to lictorhood and, like, just consumed her close friend and rejected her sister and left her for dead. And she doesn't care about anything but herself and power and accruing it. And she is just, like, this slimy, smarmy, flirty weirdo to Harrow the whole time. And I'm sure that there are people who find it charming, but I found it very gross and grating. And just, like, she views everything as a tool, except for maybe not Harrow. And I don't think that didn't endear her to me. But she is very like disaster girly. Like she loses an arm at one point, and Harrow makes her one out of bone that then they plate in gold.
Actually, it's kind of cool.
That part.
Oh, she's incredibly badass. Yeah. I don't know. She's an interesting character. She is. I don't know what like the ultimate goal with her is. She's one of those characters who is full of disaster at every turn, and I don't know if she's gonna get a satisfying conclusion at the end of the series because I feel like she is just a disaster engine a little bit.
Well, okay, so she's a disaster engine, but then in Nona, she and Gideon are like besties. So
yes, yeah, that's a whole other other conversation. Yeah,
Romo, we are not going to have time.
Oh, what do you mean?
I was gonna say we're not even gonna be able to get into Nona, are we? I had like one other thing to bring up about Harrow specifically, and then we can kind of like tease where that leaves off for Nona. Because I actually feel like leaving Nona as a surprise for people, even if they're cool spoilers,
a nice idea, yeah,
is maybe a good move. Just because Nona's so different as a book, you know what I mean?
And it is the most revealing about the world.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. And Audrey, stop me if I'm glossing over anything you want to talk about. But so, through so the thing that's fascinating to me about Harrow is that like how Gideon is set mostly in this mansion on dead Earth, Harrow the Ninth is set on this space station that Audrey mentioned that is just kind of God and the Lictors' home. And it is one of those things where like the best way to show that God and his angels are actually just a bunch of dudes is to show God and his angels just being a bunch of dudes. Like, you learn pretty quickly that God's name is John, and that really sets the tone for things very quickly. He makes references to, like, memes and things that we, the readers, know are
none
things
house
from
with
modern
left grief.
Earth.
None house with left grief murdered me.
I hate it, but I understand functionally why it's there. I think it's incredibly tacky and took me out of it a lot, but I understand why it's there. Whew. But what's so fun is that like very quickly it just becomes the first book is Gideon wandering around a haunted house, trying to figure out what Harrow's doing and trying to make friends and alliances and not fuck up too bad. The second one is Harrow effectively wandering around a different haunted house because the body of Cytheria effectively becomes a haunting object. Ortis, the one whose name is actually Gideon, who she has lobotomized herself into thinking of as Ortis, is trying to kill her constantly. So it's basically the Resident Evil 2 police station in this motherfucker at all times.
Also, just really quickly, we should mention that the reason he's trying to kill her is that he has seen, so the way that Lictorhood works is that sometimes you have your eyes and sometimes you have your Cavalier's eyes, like eye color. Yeah. Gideon always was described as having these weird gold eyes, and so sometimes Harrow has gold eyes. And Gideon the First recognizes those eyes because it is revealed at the end that there was a big plot. He was sleeping with the Blood of Eden Commander Wake, who also is like haunting Harrow's dreams in this book. Her memories of Canaan House, her fake memories. That's a whole plot that we didn't even touch on. But he was hooking up with Wake and basically used John's sperm to impregnate Wake. We're not going to get
into these people are all fucking constantly, and so it's not really that hard to get God's sperm if you know the right
so then
people.
Gideon is Commander Wake and God's son, daughter. And so there's a moment like at the end where Gideon is piloting Harrow's body, and so it's Gideon's eyes, and she looks at John and says, "Hi, Dad," and he said, or she looks at him and says something, and he says, "Hi, whatever, I'm Dad." It's like another bad joke.
Yeah.
But that's like the big reveal is that Gideon is God's daughter, and oh God, I'm like on a very weird high roll here. It's also revealed that Gideon the First didn't fully absorb the consciousness of his Cavalier, and so they took turns piloting the body, and they both were sleeping with Wake, which is a wild thing.
That's Gideon and Pyrrha, right? Pyrrha.
Yes, Pyrrha. Thank you. Yes, yeah. And then oh God. First of all, I found the line you were looking for earlier, Jay.
Word.
But you were always too quick to mourn your own ignorance. You never could have guessed that he had seen me.
Yeah, there's the Gideon needle drop.
Yeah, which was a big one, which is a huge one. And then the other thing is, so the reveal that Gideon is God's daughter illuminates in the first book. The implication is you can't open the tomb on the ninth house unless you have John's blood. Like his blood is what opens it. Gideon and Harrow had been fighting. There is explicit mention of Harrow having Gideon's blood under her fingernails when she goes to the tomb.
Oh.
So it all ties together. I get really excited about that shit. I'm very conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
I love conspiracies. Yeah. I'm here for this. I'm here for this so hard.
That's amazing.
I have so many notes. I have these books in my cart. I just need to be paid.
The last thing I'd say is, well, okay, one, Audrey just mentioned at the kind of the climax of Harrow, Harrow kind of fucks off to the spirit world for a while, and while she's gone, Gideon basically finally wakes up. Like, the Gideon that is in her body wakes up fully and is like allowed to take control for the first time since Harrow lobotomizes the name out of her head. And so you get these chapters where it's Gideon narrating, piloting Harrow's body around.
Oh, and they're being attacked by aliens.
While it's being under attack from like the minions of a resurrection beast, and you get an incredible duel with one of the other lictors. You get all the stuff with learning about Gideon's parentage that she has talked about. I just think that perspective shift is done like incredibly well. It's really cool.
The voice is so distinct for both.
Goodness.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And then the third book's about a whole different motherfucker.
A whole other motherfucker.
Kind of.
There's so...
Isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot out there. We didn't even really talk about the river or the bubbles, and there's just a lot. You just see a lot. There's a lot going on. Also, Mercy Morn is what I feel like. I just okay. It's like she's a nun, but also not. Like she's the most uptight person in the universe, but also she.
Technically, you could say that about Harrow too. You could.
She constantly is like asking, like saying Harrow's age and making her consistently younger, and like referring to the new lictors as babies. Like there's a point where she's like, she's 12, and then like later on it's she's 8, and like it just is so funny.
It's a really good bit.
But she and Augustine are like they paint this picture of incompetence that like at the end of the book they try to kill God, and it doesn't.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, and it doesn't succeed, but it's like this moment of, wow, okay, so they weren't incompetent. They were just also basically tired of him, the way that Cytherea was.
You learned, weren't they both in on the plan
the blood of
with
Eden thing.
God's sperm and the creation of... They were all in on it, basically, is what you learn.
The problem, I think, with the plan is that Pyrrha actually loved Wake, and... Gideon maybe didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, and then they another fun thing to note is that if they had succeeded in killing God is connected to the sun continuing to function
it like
in the
blipped
sky.
out.
And so if they'd killed him, the sun would have gone out.
Not the sun.
Yeah, you need that is the thing about it.
Yep. Oh my goodness. I am like having a blast listening to you two, but I also know you guys said you have a time limit. So I don't want to interrupt or stop, but do you guys have any like last things you want to mention before I roll into some cooldown questions?
Roll through the houses and which planets they are because I was so proud of myself for figuring this out.
Oh, that's a good one. Please.
So it's not explicitly said anywhere except for Earth, basically. So the first house is Earth, the second house is Mars, the third house is Neptune, which is like inferred because the second house is like the cohort, the war house, so that's how I knew it was Mars. Third house, Neptune, Tridentarius twins. Fourth house is Saturn, which is kind of God, it's like the rings and like the eating their young, because we didn't talk about Jean-Marie and Isaac, the children in the first book that die. And then
not the children.
Yeah, the fifth.
Yeah, 2 kids get fucking murdered as hell in the first book.
The 5th is Jupiter.
Man.
There's a part where what's-his-face is described as jovial. I think that was a very loose connection, but it worked out because it was like the last one to fill in. 6th house is Mercury, which you find out in Nona. 7th house is Venus, which is like the beauty house. And then the 8th house is Uranus, which ironically and hilariously, there are some jokes that are made about Mercy Morn and the 8th house and the stoma and stuff, and essentially it's a one huge butthole joke if you know that the 8th house is Uranus.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then the 9th house is Pluto.
Fuck. I'm glad Pluto gets the recognition it deserves.
Yeah, because God put the body of the one woman who could destroy his empire in a tomb on the furthest out planet.
I don't remember if it's in.
Get it out of here.
I don't remember if it's in Harrow or Nona, but there is an implication that he didn't expect there to be civilization there, which is very funny.
That comes up in one of the first 2 books. I think what it is that when in the first book, Gideon at one point is encounters the people from the 8th house while they're all in the big mansion, and I think it's that conversation where they're basically like, yeah, the 9th wasn't really meant to survive. Like, we just put people there to guard the tomb while we thought it was relevant and expected them to all die out, and instead they made up a religion around it and became acolytes of their own accord. God literally didn't want this and doesn't care. I mean, I think he like kind of comes to, but it's like, yeah, no, that wasn't really part of the plan. You guys have just been fucking around out there for 10,000 years.
Incredible.
Oh my. Oh, there's so many different, like, I know that there's probably not thousands, but, you know, to be dramatic, there's like thousands of other like qualities of these books that are incredible, but I don't know about them yet. But just hearing the few of the different qualities and tones and characters and plot devices and plot lines that this book series has, I'm like just staring at the buy button, like sweating.
Do it.
The thing to me that I think we've both like illustrated this in bits, but like, it is so much about perspective and like the perspectives that you are following the story from, who the characters are. Gideon in the first one, Gideon's like funny and sarcastic, but also like has this very vulnerable side that feels very much like it is part of the same person who is being funny, sarcastic in those ways.
She's bought into all of the stuff that was ever said about her a little bit.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No.
Like absolutely. And then Harrow in the second one is just like, you know, has the personality of a tiny but enormous fanged barking dog of just like she is she's an absolute chihuahua human, just like desperately clinging to every bit of sanity she has as she's losing them, but like still determined to fucking win no matter what. I don't know. I really like Tamsyn Weir's prose. I think she's just a beautiful dialogue writer, and that is so much of it to me. I don't know. I love these books. The third one's about a whole other character who you spend the whole book trying to figure out who they are, because all the characters you know who are in it from the first 2 books are trying to figure out who she is. It makes sense in context, I promise, and it's
the
really
one that I
fun.
have the most philosophical notes about, so it's probably good we didn't get to it.
Yeah.
We will definitely have to do like a part 2 or something after the 4th book comes out.
Yeah,
for those 2 books or something.
There you go. Absolutely.
That sounds like a plan to me. I don't know. You said 2024. All right, season 5. Let's go. We're gonna have to.
Let's go.
We're gonna have to touch base. Is this a good time for me to ask a couple questions before we close out? Cool.
Hell yeah.
All right. I like to write notes as we go along. I have 2 pages in front of me, and not 2 pages of questions, but you know, just lots of things. But let's see. So you know how in a book or whatever you're consuming, there's a character you just feel like super close to, like personally. I don't know what the fancy Tumblr term is, but like, which character do you feel most connected to in this
Gideon,
this series?
100%.
Gideon?
Also Gideon.
Hell yeah.
It's literally for the reasons we just talked about too, like the self-deprecating, like there's something about Gideon that there's a point in the book where it's while Gideon and Harrow still aren't getting along in the first book, where Harrow asks Gideon to do something that Harrow clearly thinks Gideon is gonna put a big fuss about and like be like, absolutely not. But all Gideon says is like, okay, sure, fine, I'll do it. Like I'll do it. And Harrow has a moment of like, is that what it takes? Is that, you know, to Harrow very sarcastically is something to the effect of like, is that what it takes to decode your secret fucking code, is just to ask you? And Gideon just kind of quietly is like, all I ever need you to do is ask me. Like kind of being like, you know, I know you and I have fought forever, but literally all I ever need you to do is look at me as a person for a second. And there is a way in which that manifests with Gideon throughout all three of these books that like really fucking hurts.
It's just Gideon wants connection.
Oh
like Gideon doesn't have parents and wasn't taken in as like to be an adoptive child or anything. Like she was detritus. She was extraneous, like didn't need to be there. And so it is something where her whole life has been about seeking someone to connect to. And I think that really informs the way that she is like talking to Harrow and about Harrow in the second book, and the way that we see her in Nona too.
Everything that you've said is just like shot stuff into my brain, and like I love a second person book. I know that some people are like second person, but that's almost always my shit unless it's done bad.
It's done very well.
It's so cool. I believe it sounds like it.
I'm gonna segue. I'm gonna transition into in the same field that we're in. So for me, I may not be like a big time reader because I just have such a difficult time looking at words. So I do a lot of like audio drama or audio production, like audiobooks, etc. But you could definitely feel like the tone of the author either way, whether you're reading it on a book, pages, or listening to an audiobook. For those who haven't or who might be getting into the Locked Tomb series, would you say that there's like another author or something else that you've read that has a similar like style to it? Because you said it's in second person, but am I making sense?
I think so. So the first book is in second person. That's just the second one. She changes that a lot. But like having an author that's similar, I mean, I think a little bit.
It's hard.
To me, it's a little bit like Becky Chambers' stuff in the prose, maybe. But Becky Chambers' stuff is really, really sincere. It doesn't have like the veneer of comedy on it. So I don't know. I think that's a hard question.
What
so
is Becky Chambers?
Long Way to an Angry Planet, and then she's done the Monk and Robot series that's been out lately. She's another like spec sci-fi author. God, I'm trying to think if there's like other authors that I would compare this to, but the thing is like it has the density of hard sci-fi or like really high fantasy, but is not written in the condescending way that those things are often written, if that makes sense.
I can appreciate that a lot. Yeah, no, I completely understand.
Can I throw out the books I've been reading after getting into those and draw a kind of shaky parallel between them?
That's actually relating to my next question was, for those listeners who have already read this series, is there books that you maybe recommend?
I second that.
So I don't read a lot of sci-fi fantasy because I find a lot of sci-fi that I've read to not really have the kind of like limited perspective based way of showing the setting that I would want. Like I don't need I'm sure you do, and I need that list. So what I will throw out, I promise it's not just because of the name. Since reading this series of books that includes titles such as Gideon the Ninth and the word ninth a bunch, I really like the book Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Unrelated completely.
No relation.
Leigh Bardugo Leigh Bardugo is largely a YA author. She wrote the Shadow and Bone books, which I have not read, but I know a lot of people liked. This is not YA. This is like adult fantasy. Ninth House and its sequel Hellbent, which I'm reading right now, are about a student at Yale who has been given a free ride to Yale because she can see ghosts. She basically is being used as kind of the supernatural auditor for this series of secret societies at Yale that are involved in the supernatural. That, like, you know, one of the early rituals you see in the first book is a bunch of students in one of these societies holding a ritual so that a graduate from that society's next book gets popular and sells well. Things like that. Basically, like, rich, spoiled kids using this, like, ancient well of magic that exists in, like, Yale, in, like, you know, New England, in the fiction of this book, to perform all these things. And it's about this kid who basically gets tapped to take on this job after she is possessed by a ghost and commits murder in LA. She comes from, like, a very different background and it's a book that's a lot about, like, the relationship between the main character and the supernatural things going on in it remind me a little bit about Gideon and the more necromancy stuff in the Locked Tomb books. And then also, it has a kind of perspective on, like, the classes of people who exist around magic and how supernatural forces divide people like that, which is something that it's more interested in than the Locked Tomb books is interested in. But it made me think about some things that I think people who like the Locked Tomb books might also like. So, Ninth House and Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo.
I'm gonna rattle my list off real fast because I have a bunch. But the first one is The Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. It is exactly what it sounds like. We follow Murderbot, who is just a very wonderful character in a sci-fi universe. They're mostly novellas. There's a couple full-length novels, but mostly novellas. And they're almost all mysteries. So that would be my top one for people who like this book. Titan Shade by Dan Stout, which is like a noir in a weird, it's not a fantasy city, but it's not urban fantasy either. So just a weird setting with that one. God, what else have I been reading? I mean, the Becky Chambers books for sure. Like, definitely A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet and the Monk and Robot series, both really good sci-fi series. I read a lot of sci-fi and try to be discerning about what feels similar and, like, good to read. And a lot of what I'm reading lately is, like, novellas, which is ironic because these books are super long. And so it's not the same, you know, but it is very gratifying to read something that is treating the world with care. Yeah.
I've been wanting to, like, read a lot more sci-fi. I love it. I just kind of have, like, fallen out of being caught up on it, basically. So I am definitely wanting to like take.
Literally, any of you can bother me anytime. I will be like, here is all of my sci-fi and sci-fi adjacent recommendations and weird weird speculative fic recommendations, because I have a huge long list and not enough people to talk about them with.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Actually, I just picked up one the other day, so I'll hit you up about that.
Yes.
So.
You know what? Where is it? It's in here. I know it is. Also, just as a reminder, we have this lovely little thread here in the Hyperfix Discord called Book Corner with the Old Paper Smell. So if you ever
yes.
just wanted to pop off in there, you're welcome to it.
I should. Oh, I guess
Absolutely.
I will say, since we've been, like, posting a ton in the thread, I cosplay both Gideon and Harrow, and so I dropped those photos in the thread for people.
They're incredible. Absolutely incredible. I kind of want to give Gideon a shot as well, because, like, I'm in love.
It's so fun. So fun.
I can see that cosplay extremely easily for you, Roma.
I've been preparing emotionally and physically so I could just cosplay the women that I want to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Oh my goodness. I had written a bunch of questions, but as the episode went on, y'all like answered them. But I also wrote down a few funny things. Are you interested in the few funny things I have before we close out?
I certainly am.
All right. The first one I wrote down is when somebody said "them bitches is gay." I loved that. Let's see. Oh, it was about I think it was Harrow with being full of souls. And so where did I write that? I wrote slaps Harrow on the head. You can fit so many souls in this bitch. In that one meme. To which I did that one again. Where did I write that down? I lost it. I wrote down, I love a woman that would actually just kill me. And then there was the thing about killing God. So I wrote, I love a woman that would actually just kill God. And we talked about somebody eating something. And I wrote, eat them, chew on it. But I don't remember why.
Could be souls. Could be. We didn't even talk about the part where Harrow feeds someone bone broth and then manipulates the bone broth into a whole second skeleton that bursts out of their body to try and kill them.
Oh, God.
So, eat that shit. Yeah, whatever.
God.
Oh, and, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I wrote, sex pal is definitely the first thing you say to a man you've never spoken to before as well.
Yes. Yes.
Let's see. I think that is it for the funny things I wrote down, but I did make a note. Are we ready to close out? Do we want to say or do anything else?
Sounds like we're ready to close on out, yeah?
All right. Well, I'm going to go in reverse order of introductions. Audrey, would you like to plug your where people can find you on the internet or any projects you're working on?
So you can find me as Lady Tabletop online. I am on Tumblr and itch.io, and that's pretty much it. You can find my show Alone at the Table on moonshotpods.com. That's where you find me online. I try not to be too online these days.
It's valid. Jay, where can we find you on the internet?
Sure. You can find me as Extreme Salsing. If you see an Extreme Salsing somewhere online, it's probably me. It'd be weird if someone else also came up with that handle. I'm on Twitter, which I don't really use anymore, and also that website's name is still Twitter. Don't at me. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Tumblr. I'm on Letterboxd, and you can listen to Additional Postage Required, the audio drama sci-fi show I made that Roma is in a couple episodes of. And that season 1 has wrapped. There's a post-mortem on it. We are starting work on season 2. It's a great time to get caught up. Oh, and also Champs in the Making, which I just recently hosted a couple episodes of. I am one of the rotating hosts of that, and that's always a fun time. Jake was on it, and Audrey was on it, and we had a lovely time talking about creatures.
We did no crimes.
No crimes.
Crimes? What are those? Don't even know.
Criminals. There's criminals in my Discord. What is going on here?
Huh?
I specifically said we did no crimes. There's no criminals in your Discord.
Only criminals say they did no crimes.
Also, thank you as always to Roma for when they were first on and gave me Starmie has big free-range gluten-free fidget spinner energy, a sentence that still lives in my head
every time I see a picture
forever
of
until
it.
the end of days.
Oh my god, I'm so glad I made such an impact, because that was straight up like pulled out of a deep dissociation staring at that image for a while. Like everybody's talking and I'm like, this is the only thing that fell out of my mouth, and I'm so glad it was good. Jakey, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on the internet at Mr. Jakey Poo on most websites. Since the kind of death of Twitter, I have stopped. I haven't been posting as much on any of them, but I'm mostly on Twitter and Blue Sky. And you can also catch me sometimes on the Redacted Media YouTube channel, where we're talking about the Dark Tower books.
It's very good.
They're great.
Very great.
They're wild, but they're great.
Oh my goodness.
And Roma, where can we find you?
I'm on the internet. I used to be on the internet a whole lot, but nowadays, after the death of Twitter, I've been finding peace and not looking at my phone a whole lot. But you can find me at I appreciate your butt at thetwitter.coms. IAPPRECI, the number 8 URBUTT. And the same way on Blue Sky and Tumblr, TikTok as well. But I'm mostly on the Hyperfixes TikTok. But yes, I was on additional postage required. That was a shit ton of fun. I definitely got really emotional listening to the postmortem. So good. And I definitely, we talked about it in May, but there is a thing that I'm gonna probably push a little bit to see in season 2. But I mentioned it to you then, but I'll remind you in a little bit.
Message me later. I think I know what it is, but let's just talk about it to make sure I'm right.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for listening to this show to the point where it's been over a year. We're in season 4 now. This is crazy. Holy shit. Thank you. And we'll see you next week. Be safe. Don't die. Drink your water. Read your books. Touch some grass, maybe. And badoop.
Badoop.
Don't throw yourself on a fence and soul bond yourself to a lady who's going to lobotomize you out of her mind.
You know, this podcast wouldn't be possible without the Moonshot Network. You can find the Moonshot Network at twitter.com/moonshotpods. You can see what we're doing live at moonshot.mov or moonshot.mov. Or check out our website. You can go to moonshotpods.com and see all the things that we're doing. And you can support the network directly at patreon.com/Moonshot Network. Or if you want to support this podcast directly, if you know what I mean, you can find us at patreon.com/The Hyperfixation, where for as little as $1 a month, you too can get episodes early. And you know what? You know who gets those episodes early? Our current patrons. Our current patrons for this episode, as of this time in place in society, in the universe, is first up, Flo. And then we got Hate Skin, Becky Scott Fairley, and Ver. Those 4 patrons carry this podcast on their back. Those 4 patrons love us so much. And you know what? You can help them out. You can help them carry this gigantic podcast with our long-ass episodes. You can help us keep this podcast going by going to our Patreon. I would love you forever, and I will announce your name at the end of every episode. Please and thank you. Also, we might be dropping merch. So if you want some merch, check out the Redbubble. Let me get that for you. Actually, yeah, if you go to Redbubble and search the Hyperfix Pod, you will find our store where you can get our stuff on things. Isn't that crazy? Our stuff on stuff? That's crazy. But yeah, check out the Hyperfix Pod on Redbubble or Patreon, and you can find yourself some interesting ways to support the podcast. And I also want to thank Offuscate, that is OFUSKATE, for our intro and outro music. So if you're looking for some podcast intro and outro music, check out their work. They're on SoundCloud, Instagram, and Twitter. And thank you to our editor. Thank you to Kingdom. You can find Kingdom at twitter.com/Tachyon Kingdom. Kingdom slaved over this episode and many of our episodes. So please give Kingdom a big thank you. Let's get back to that episode outro that I didn't record in advance or in the future.
Welcome, one and all, to Riley Hopkins and their amazing friends, the actual play podcast that steals. What does that mean? That means that we take stories from corporations and come back and tell our own fanfic-inspired actual plays with them. We do things like a Star Wars podcast that takes place 300 years after The Last Jedi. What if any Zoids media was good? We tell stories in those spaces that are better than the ones that the corporations tell us, because we're not fucking cowards. Please, come join us at Riley Hopkins and their amazing friends to hear a plethora of wonderful stories every once in a while on the Moonshot Podcast Network. Riley Hopkins and their amazing friends. Hosted by me, Riley Hopkins.